Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. It's so good to see you today. I see
Won't
you.
Be our neighbor?
Dan Murrell is here.
I am here.
Roth Cornet is here. This is Ed Greer. That's
Hello.
Joe Starr. We don't know where the girl is. I'm gonna read the stuff. Terminators. Jokers are joking. I'm me. I'm the girl.
Oh.
And I was making a thing.
What girl?
It didn't work. None of it worked.
Where's the girl?
Terminators are terminating, jokers are joking. It could have been a very different Mission Impossible movie. We have lots of news actually to dive into today, but first we want to talk about the Terminator, like philosophically. So there's a new photo released of the upcoming Terminator movie, which plot details are very sparse on, but many have been delighted to see that Linda Hamilton will be reprising her role as Sarah Connor. Many by that, I mean me. In this photograph, you see Linda Hamilton with Mackenzie Davis from Blade Runner 2049 and Natalia Reyes, who co-star in the film. Again, we don't really know that much about it. Doesn't even really have a title yet.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know anything
untitled.
about it.
It's in production. So Mackenzie Davis is ostensibly speaking the lead in the film. She plays a character called Grace. And Reyes will play Danny Ramos. That's all we know, and it's going to be directed by Deadpool's Tim Miller. It was also based on a script, and here's a roller coaster for you, written by people such as David Goyer. Ooh. And Josh Friedman. Yay! And if you guys don't know why I'm excited about the fact that Josh Friedman is involved in this, besides the fact that he's a giant talent, is that he is the genius behind one of my favorite television shows of all time that it is currently appropriate for me to talk about, which is Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. So I'm very excited to see him involved at all. However, I just kind of want to get your take on the image and what you think of it. It's due in theaters November 22nd, 2019. But also the fact that we keep making Terminator movies, and by we, I mean no one associated at all at this table.
I've made 4 Terminator movies.
But like it really is starting to get to be a little bit meta, because you've got 2 great films, some others that people debate, a couple that are just terrible. Let's admit this. A TV show that's awesome. And in all of that, it starts to feel very, very meta. Like we keep coming back and trying to fix it and save the thing, and yet Skynet keeps happening, and we just can't seem to stop it. On a pragmatic level, this is being produced by Paramount, who also did Genesis. They need it. You know, we talked about this a lot, Dan, in terms of Paramount needs Bumblebee to work because they need Transformers to work for them as a franchise. They need this to work because they just need the money. They need whatever they're going to do with Trek to Trek. And that's sort of why it's being made, I think, on a pragmatic level, but on a creative level. Why do we keep wanting to return to the world of the Terminator?
Well, I think you nailed it on the...
Thanks, I'm going to leave for the day.
Yeah, later off. So, guys, I think you nailed it on the pragmatic level. They just desperately need franchises to work, and Terminator is a franchise with a capital Fran. And I think the interesting thing is the word need. They need these to work. They need a new Transformers to work. They really need Terminator to work. And I think before in the past where there's been a bit of a mindset of, I don't know, Salvation will be fine. Genesis will be a good idea. I think need and being sort of backed into a corner a little bit breeds creativity. And so that's why I'm kind of interested in this. The little bit we've talked to Tim Miller about this, he seemed excited to just be in the trenches and in the dirt, rolling around in the dirt and making a really good action movie. So hopefully the studio was like, you know what? We've made some missteps. Let's just let people make a movie.
Did you like that image? Did that get you more or less excited? What was this happening here?
Oh, that was fingers being...
That was fingers crossed, okay.
Like the Target lady. I'm very ready to vote Linda Hamilton for the President of the United States based on that photo alone. Like, that's her campaign photo. And, and I'm voting. He's
Joe,
now
we
the
need
president.
to talk about your electoral standards.
When
It's a
we-
great photo, but
I don't.
where does she stand on
I don't see
tariffs?
where Joe's wrong on this.
I think no. Bring back the picture. I think it's
I
very
don't-
clear.
I don't see where
Look at
Joe's
that.
wrong on this.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, tariffs. They're right there.
When we saw the Halloween image, I was like, let's go Grambo. But now I just want the crossover between whatever Jamie Lee Curtis is doing in Halloween and whatever's happening
You
here
want
with
like kind of
Linda.
Golden Girls Expendables to happen?
Yes!
Yeah.
That was loud. Ed, what do you think? Are you a Terminator fan?
You know what? At this point, I don't think it matters, because I do believe that Terminator is like Galactus or a great white shark or something. It's part of the ecosystem at this point. Everybody's feeding it. It's getting all the oceans clean. It grabs up talent, like the dude who directed Deadpool, and also Dave Goyer, who did start this off with a great script for Blade. Let's give credit where credit is due. Obviously, he's going through a period of like, ugh, like you said, but like he
Takes
really.
a long time to reset after that one thing.
I know. But the
Dark
bottom.
Knight, not a bad movie.
Not a bad movie at all.
right.
But he
Point
also
out
had
Batman
help.
Begins.
Absolutely.
To
We're
be
being
fair,
cheeky.
We're being unfair because he both gets credit
Right.
and blame, but he's also got multiple writers in
said-
all of these
yes.
films.
But he's also been
Also,
part
I believe
of.
it's Goyer.
yeah.
But he's also Adobe Gauche. He's also part of the darkening of the DC universe. People don't remember that. People are probably reacting to that part. The comes from that. He's part of the darkening of the DC universe, which messed everything
Superman.
up. Exactly. So all I'm saying is, at this point, Terminator is also a way to comment on the fears of the day. There's going to be Terminators for our kids. Because remember, that one was a kind of nihilistic one. Terminator 3 was like, oh, we'll throw our hands up. We can't do it. Hunker down and survive the explosion. That was the message of that. That's, I guess, how we were thinking as a culture or something. Then Genesis comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They seem to be reinterpretations of this myth for subsequent generations.
You said a lot of really cogent things, but I'm still a little stuck on the fact that you think Galactus is real. We're going to circle back to that
He
after
does.
the show.
Real and necessary, obviously.
Dan?
We keep doing this because we want to fall in love again. Like,
Aw,
but
that's
I'm like, no,
sweet.
like the Terminator was not just like a character for a certain generation, which happens to be largely or often the generation that's funding and directing these movies right now. The Terminator was like this larger than life. Like, he was Arnold Schwarzenegger and like hasta la vista baby and I'll be back. Like, that was like it was like culture. It wasn't just like a movie. It was like culture. Terminator 2 was an event.
Yeah.
And people want that again, and they've been trying and they haven't been able to nail it. Tried it with Arnold, and they tried it without Arnold, and then they tried it with Arnold again, and it doesn't quite work.
Tried it
and
with the Khaleesi.
Yeah, they tried it with they tried it with they tried it with I'm completely blanking Jai Courtney. Now they're going to try it without Jai Courtney. You had Christian Bale. I mean, it's like they're trying every different combination. Prequel.
And you also see
after-
how malleable the concept is when you look at how now this is it was female centric in service of a male superhero. Like, we got to save this egg. This egg is going to hatch and be a super male hero later in the future. Now it seems to be three women being like, dude, we're the characters. We are the characters. Root for us while we stop unstoppable machines. To me, again, it's the malleability of this concept is why it persists. That and the need for franchises.
Well, yeah, there are obviously
Yeah.
financial considerations, but I think at the heart of it, there is a group of people that just want to make the Terminator awesome again. It's
I keep
nostalgia.
pulling
It's
for
a
it.
desire.
You put that on a red hat and
yeah,
sell it to
make the
everybody.
Terminator awesome again.
It's true. I keep falling for it every time. I think I've told you guys the story that somebody at Paramount called me after I finally saw Genesis and was like, "Are you okay?" Because I kept pulling for that movie, and I really wanted it to be good because I love the Terminator, and that TV show was awesome, which means you can post 1 and 2. You can do something very interesting with this world, and creatively successful. They just haven't. Other than that, I know some people like 3. That's fine.
Well, I mean, personally, I think the non-mechanization of the actual Terminator, when it's not just a bunch of bolts that you might be able to defeat. I got this theory about like horror where if you can't escape, if it's impossible to escape, it's not scary. You're not brave if you're Wolverine and you heal up from every wound. There has to be some chance for the hero to win, for there to be any stakes. And these super liquid ass robots and Transformers and stuff they've turned into, that's a lot, bro. I mean, when it was like basically a Volkswagen coming after you, I can relate to
Yeah.
that. Somebody tried to run
And
me
even
over
the story
once.
of the Volkswagen fighting the Porsche, like, was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a liquid robot in T2, and it's T1000.
Well, that's why it's
Yeah.
the apex.
He's the
though.
Porsche.
That's
Yeah.
why it's the apex. I
Yeah.
think that's why they can't surpass it.
But the apex is Shirley Manson as a T1000 in that TV show, dude. Oh man.
I need to go back and watch Sarah
You
Connor
do.
Chronicles.
You
Was
so
she a
do.
T-1000?
Huh?
Was she a T-1000? I remember she was in the show. She
Yeah,
was?
she was.
I remember she was like a corporate person. And then
She
I
was a
couldn't remember
corporate
if she was-
T1000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like fighting for the.
She was. Yeah, it's such a good show. It's
Yeah.
such a good show.
But there is something to to why you were pulling for Genesis and stuff like that. There's something specific about Terminator where it's just like you hear dun 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 dun, and you're like, okay, I'm in. Like there's
Yeah.
just like a visceral reaction you have. I can watch T1 and T2 over and over and over again and still have that same reaction to the first time the theme kicks in or the first time someone says, "Come with me if you want to live." Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about this movie that just sticks
It
in
prints.
your brain.
It's also something though that I think that the Alien franchise is struggling with it too, which is that as awesome as the first couple were, there are only so many things you can do with this franchise. It's a killer robot.
Yeah.
They had one killer robot trying to kill one person. That was the first movie. It was great. Sequel, you escalate it. You're trying to stop Judgment Day, which is the thing that bursts the killer robots, and you send another awesome one, and you stopped it.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do from there is to belabor the point. Is to go back and undo something that was done in the last movie, or try to make a better killer robot, or you have to start retconning and retrofitting, flashing forward, flashing back. That's why I think it doesn't connect, is you had an awesome concept, and you had two great movies that came out of it. Ripley defeats one alien, Ripley defeats a bunch of aliens. Awesome. All you can do from that point is to make her dumber, or make the or
Clones of Ripley.
Exactly.
Or make them to be make them impossible.
kill
I think
That's part of it too.
It's something to speak on. Y'all's points too is I think as we move forward, these movies have a hard time catching up. Aliens works because it's a very specific vision of the future that fit the 70s and fit the 80s. You know, these big monolith spaceships. Whereas, and same with the Terminator, like you said, it's a big robotic Volkswagen. That's how we saw robotics back then, these big hulking things, because computers were still the size of 6 houses. And I'm sort of pushing a little
They're
bit.
big.
Calm down, comments. But once we get to 2018, and it's like, okay, there's nanotech, there's apps. AI looks very different than we thought it was going to in 1992. These concepts have a hard time, I think, catching up.
Or it just becomes the Prometheus problem, among other problems with Prometheus, was that the technology in the prequel is so much more advanced than what we now. You can get away with that a little bit because these are like blue collar workers in the first film, right? So a little bit you can be like, well, there's still economic disparity and they're poor.
Yeah, the CEO of the company
CEO
is
of
on
the
this
company
ship.
is on this ship. That's fine, but it does get a little tricky with the Terminator, where it's like, the more you advance to meet the world we're in, the less it's matching what we saw originally. But it's also time travel, so you can do a lot of stuff. Just watch the TV show. Watch the TV show. It's so good. And then engage in like Twitter fan fiction with me about where it goes from there. That delightful cliffhanger at the end. Mark Maron is a comedian I really like, and you should check him out on Glow. But he's now potentially in the Joker movie, which Prescient Joe, which is now your new name, pitched in a movie fight that he would be the Joker, right?
I thought he would be an excellent weird Joker.
He would be an excellent weird Joker, but he's now going to be in what I am starting to place bets it's going to be an excellently weird Joker movie, the Joaquin Phoenix movie. So according to sources, we heard that Robert De Niro was going to be playing a talk show host who books in Phoenix's character. It doesn't go well, and it's part of what inspires him to become the clown prince of crime. So they say via Variety that he's going to be portraying, quote, an agent on the talk show who books Phoenix in. I think that's confusing. He must either be an agent that rejects him or hurts his feelings in some way, or a producer on the show that books him in, one or the other. That said, a booking agent maybe?
What's the dude's name that books Letterman?
It
That guy?
used to be Brill.
I guess
Yeah,
I guess
Eddie
maybe a
Brill.
booking-
He's like an Eddie
he's
Brillish
like an-
dude.
Yeah. So in any event, insiders, side note, did stress that Leto, who starred as the Joker in Suicide Squad, is still on board. There's still going to be the character, his version of the character in future DC films.
Jokerverse.
And maybe his own standalone Joker movie. I will believe that. I'm with you. I believe that when I see it. I don't believe that. I don't believe it.
Jokerverse.
That's not going to happen.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
That would be like them giving Jesse Eisenberg his own Lex Luthor movie.
Yeah,
That's stupid.
It just doesn't make sense.
Why would you do that?
I don't believe it. I don't believe
either.
it either.
I don't either.
I think they're going to see what happens with this. They have a modest budget. They're able to take the risks. Exciting. But I don't believe that about Leto at all.
I don't either.
Unless he shows up in the Birds of Prey movie or something.
I'm not saying he's not going to be in another future DC
but not his
movie.
own.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We're
They're
calling,
not getting, no.
We call foul variety.
No, you
We
guys
call
don't think
shenanigans.
So wait, you don't want to see
Rough Rider loving
But yeah.
DMX singing Joker deserves his own.
you
thing?
don't want to see his origin at an ICP concert. You don't
just spraying Fago.
the Fago turns him super white and
Nothing about that makes any sense.
The first TV show that I ever worked on when I moved to Los Angeles, it had a big star in it, and it got canceled. It got canceled after one episode. And everyone knew it was canceled, but what the studio did was they sent us a fax that said,
sent you a
it's
fax?
like, well, it was
Explain what that
here are
is
your
to the
revised,
people.
here are your revised air dates, and it revised them from the future air dates to none. And then they literally we got in a meeting, they're like, okay, so the studio's decided that they want to kind of see how things play out, so we're not canceled, but everyone is going to go home, and we're striking the sets. And we're closing down the office.
But we're not canceled.
And everyone's moving off the lot. But we're not canceled. And it was because it would be embarrassing to the star to have a television show that was canceled after one episode. Yeah. So the studio's like, it's fine. No, we're just gonna take a minute. And I think that's what they're doing with Leto here. Is like it is highly embarrassing to him for this to not have worked.
Yeah.
So I think, and they're now going in another direction with the character. And I think that they're basically saying, like, don't worry. Yeah, it's fine. And then a year or so down the road, they'll come to something like, we just couldn't get on the same
issues.
page. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
creative differences.
Creative
Yada, yada.
differences.
Our grill budget went way down.
Is really but they could say scheduling issues because he really does have this whole other
He
career.
really
I forget
wants to
about
focus
that.
on 30 Seconds to Mars.
Well, like
He is a legitimate rock star.
Yeah.
Like playing to 100,000 arenas and craziness.
I wanted to focus on my music. Yeah, that's gonna come out.
Yeah.
But in regards to this
What
thing,
if Dave Matthews was the Joker? Sorry.
oh, I don't know, man. I think
God. How does that even, because he just yowls, right? So is it just like, just give me a threat to say in a Dave Matthews voice. Like,
I could see the Joker with a fiddler. That seems.
Why so
Batman, why you making me start?
Sorry,
Turn him off, down.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So many people's college years came back to them.
Oh, yeah. Like a flood.
Like a
Hit me in the
fucking
face like a
flood.
You know that episode of Legion that starts with the narrator talking about injecting
Yeah,
a small
yeah.
idea? That's what this show is.
Yeah. Well, in that respect, this is every episode I have some at least one attempt to be deep. I think it's hilarious that Scorsese and De Niro are so obsessed with comedy. King of Comedy was their first foray into a comedian going crazy because the industry's weird and there's a bunch of jerk Marins out there messing you around. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then De Niro last year, 2 years ago, did a movie with Art Linson and that company called The Comedian, which a lot of people hated. But I like the fact that it had that weird look into comedy where it's not all being on TV. Sometimes you're in the back of a club in Poughkeepsie, you're going on last because you got there late because your car broke down because you're poor, and you get on stage for 40 minutes and you're a god, and people want to sign autographs and stuff. That's cool. That's a cool aspect of comedy that obviously De Niro likes. And so De Niro re-entering the world of comedy through this vehicle and Scorsese being involved. I think that's an interesting. This is an interesting bookend.
We just want to say that Scorsese is not necessarily involved.
Well, yeah, isn't he a producer or something?
No, like this.
Oh, my bad.
He was at one point.
Well, there you go.
Some
Old information.
stages. Some
It was
projects.
rumored at one point, and honestly, it was rumored at one point, yes, that Scorsese was going to produce this film. This was way back when they were trying to talk about getting Leonardo Leonardo DiCaprio to play the Joker.
Oh, because they're buddies.
But it's weird because maybe he is, because the De Niro thing, and certainly.
Well, the De Niro thing, it persists.
Yeah, and then also the King of Comedy is my favorite Scorsese. This feels like the King of Comedy plus Mean Streets. But I feel like if he was legitimately a producer on this film, they would be pushing that so hard. From the mind that brought you, Martin Scorsese would be the biggest thing attached.
When
to
they first
this
announced
movie.
it, I guess that's why it made such a big impression on my mind. I didn't know he dropped off. But well, there you go.
Maybe
People who
he
are
is.
interested, like me, jump off now. Screen Junkies ruining fandom. But like, yeah, I don't know.
It's shocking to me that they were able to land De Niro without Scorsese.
Because I think
It
he
made
likes
me
the comment.
sad.
No.
Well, he likes comedy.
It would have been in 19.
I mean, maybe.
man.
And
No,
you know
De
what?
Niro to the point he was just like, I want to make money.
To be fair,
Got
And
more
diss
grandkids
Trump.
to
He's
put
got to
through
get
college.
his Trump diss
Yeah.
chest going.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, maybe he is in some capacity involved, and that for some whatever reason they're not putting that in every sort of release. I just don't understand why the studio wouldn't be touting Scorsese at every single turn if they had him
You know,
involved.
it's probably it's one of those things where that was like the first thing that came out. And
Yeah.
Same with DCEU. We still call it that, even though now they've officially not only just said that it's not called the DCEU, now it's called Worlds of DC. I'm still going to call it the DCEU because that's just what's in my head.
Yeah, no.
There's
I mean,
no fixing it.
I like the version of this that he is producing it. So let's just say he is.
we can't be
Let's live in that world.
misinformation. But no, like I said, I think it's interesting that De Niro loves comedy so much and is willing to revisit this in this way. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think the movie sounds cool. Are you with me, Ed? Are you with me? I'm gonna pressure you.
I don't think it sounds cool. I don't think that one thing that Nolan got right is there ain't no damn origin for the Joker. That's the one thing super much he got right. Nobody, I don't want to hear it. Don't at me. He got that part right. The Joker ain't got no damn origin. Once you give him an origin, just like Wolverine, just like a bunch of different characters, they start to suck because you start to blame their childhood. You start to sit on the couch with them like the frickin' Chapanos. Oh, did your mom beat you after two piano lessons? That doesn't make people poison gas in people's faces. That's a whole nother elemental thing. If Batman is an elemental creature, let him fight an elemental creature.
But he has an origin story.
I
and
hate
they
the fact
give
that
him
it's a clown,
reasons.
but
They give Batman reasons to be Batman.
well, yeah, but at the same time, again, I think there's something elemental that happened to him in that cave. There's something magical that happened to him in that cave when he was 10 or whatever. And there's something that happened to the Joker, and I think it's cool that we don't know. And now we're gonna know, I guess.
Well, we're gonna know a version of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
Jokerverse, Elseworlds.
It's
We'll
gonna be
see.
that
We'll
time
see
I
when it
didn't
comes
get booked
out.
at the Improv and got very upset.
Again,
Joker, Joe, Starr, Joker. Oh,
Ha 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 ha. That's my Joker laugh. That's why I never made it as an actor.
it actually is chilling.
Joe Chill.
Joe, chill. I love it.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm also the one that was like, maybe Terminator Genesis will be good.
I thought the same thing. I thought it might be good.
Yeah.
Looked
It's
good.
better to be an optimist. I'm sorry if I, but I just, I don't know, man.
No, speak your truth. Mission Impossible Fallout is another movie that's out right now, and it was almost more of a psychological thriller than what we ended up seeing on screen. And by we, I mean you guys actually haven't seen it yet. This is via THR. Coming at you is a spoiler for the movie, so be warned if you have not seen Mission Impossible Fallout yet.
Look out!
We're talking
Look
to you,
at-
Movie Pass subscribers.
Yeah, anybody that just technically was not able to
Zing.
see the movie due to MoviePass's failing business model, jump out now and join us tomorrow. The Hollywood Reporter spoke with Christopher McQuarrie, the director of the film, and he talked about the plot point where Ethan Hunt assumes the identity of John Lark, who is trying to get his hands on the stolen plutonium. I just want us to sit with that. Like, as someone who hasn't seen the movie, it's so stupid sounding.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
No.
no. You don't get to do that.
Settle the fuck down. I'm not saying the movie is bad. I'm saying that line is funny. Like, oh
You
my
have no
God.
context.
Settle down. It's not what you meant. I'm not saying the movie is bad.
I will sit here
I am
silently
not
and not
saying the
speak
movie
for the
is
rest
bad.
of the show.
No, don't do that.
Just that it sounded ridiculous.
I said that line is that sitting on its own and not having seen the film, just standing there sitting on its own is funny. I didn't say the movie is bad.
I will not.
I haven't seen the
I will
movie.
not oppose you in any way. I'll sit here silently.
You
for
may
the
oppose me. I'm just saying that's not what I said. I didn't say it was bad.
You may oppose me.
No, I may not. I was just told I may not.
oppose me.
I was told I may not, so I won't. I'll just sit here.
You were just like winding up
Where's
to be
Galactus?
like.
Purple.
It just is like it felt line sounded funny. The movie, I'm sure, is great. I have not seen it. Anyway, he talked about that originally it was going to be far more of a psychological thriller, and that Hunt was actually going to make much harsher choices in order to keep his cover as that villain. So just sort of like a vice officer would have to do things that are maybe questionably moral.
You're in too deep, Ethan.
You're in too deep, Ethan. But they said they had to pull back from that, from making those sort of dark decisions because, quote, McQuarrie said, in clinging to that idea, I realized that the movie was not moving forward. It was becoming more about the idea as well as much more intellectual. It was happening at the expense of all the other characters, and the movie was just getting very long before getting back into the things you're obliged to do in a Mission Impossible movie. So I let it go, and as soon as I let it go, the whole England segment of the movie came together. So I just think it's pretty fun and interesting that he's probably right. He probably made the right choice. If you go down this very sort of dark path, you're no longer the fun in Mission Impossible movie that we want to see.
Yeah, you're doing like a weird Departed thing that doesn't feel...
And you're not like, people are going to that theater to be like, how did Tom almost die last year? Not to see this rich character study. So he's probably right, but it's also it's like a funny thing to say that it was getting too cerebral.
Well, I saw Mission Impossible, super no spoilers, but I think the world that they were going to do in that other version, it's kind of like this comic book called Sleeper by Ed Brubaker. Is this guy, he kind of infiltrates a super villain organization, and he does a bunch of terrible stuff to keep his cover. And in 2D on the page, it's okay, you're forgiving. But seeing Tom Cruise commit horrible acts over and over again to keep his cover for the greater good or whatever, I just don't think that would have resonated with audiences at all, and I think it was a wise decision. And of course, you see that they started, like a lot of Mission Impossible movies, these guys started with a 33-page outline, script, basically, and started shooting. So this is the best found movie I've ever seen. That's all I'll say. If they found it in the edit and found it in the shooting, it's the best one I've ever seen.
I think it's crazy and great that they can take these concepts like tearing off faces and things like that and make it into a very fun, engaging franchise. It's one of the things that when you read a script and then you see it come to life, so much of the time, everything is found in the direction. Dan Wayan, you've seen the movie.
I have.
You think this plays out well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a long movie, and this, I think part of it also, what he might be getting at is the fact that they have so much going on in this movie. They're globe hopping, and they're starting and stopping things and jumping off things and falling off things. That while I think this may have been a more, perhaps, more of a departure or an intriguing way to do it, I can also see why, if you lose that part of it, it is an element of the movie, but it's not ultimately the driving element of the movie.
Yeah.
So,
and it isn't the most
why.
Mission Impossible part of the movie either.
Yeah, and I could definitely see, somewhere in the writer's room there's a whiteboard that's, that started in the process that said, what is a Mission Impossible movie? What's not a Mission Impossible movie? And maybe there's some gray area in between where stuff like this can maybe fit. But I also think that's the first stuff to go when you're looking at your script or you're looking at your film in the edit bay, and it's like, okay, like this is too long, this is too much, what's not working? You go back to those core anchors of like, what's a Mission Impossible movie, what's not. Not to say that they can't get darker or get challenging, but I think the way you do that is like with 3. 3 got real dark, but it keeps Ethan Hunt heroic, and it's more about testing the limits of that heroism, as opposed to testing the limits of like his ability to maintain this deep cover. These movies have a cool supporting character who in the third act is revealed to be an undercover guy, and Ethan's like, come back, Pete, and Pete's like, I've been at it too long, Ethan, and then kicks this assassin over a waterfall with him and sacrifices himself to save Ethan, gets redeemed, and everyone's like, man, Pete was a cool character, but Ethan can't be Pete.
Ethan can't be Pete?
Ethan can't be Pete.
Also on the whiteboard.
that's on the whiteboard.
Do you have rules or things that you're looking for in a mission movie?
They've evolved so much at this point that I'm just kind of like, yeah, take me out. They become like a ride, like a theme park ride, and you have different parts of it. That's like, here's the part where he climbs to the big building, and here's the part with the sandstorm, and here's the part. But it doesn't feel herky jerky. It doesn't feel like disconnected. So
No, it is like a ride because the parts where he's getting briefed, it's like click, 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 click. We're going up that big incline, and then it's like, okay, now you got to get the guys, and then you lost the thing. Click, 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 and then you got to get the plutonium.
Yeah,
they've become great. I think, particularly summer movies, in that you just kind of go on this journey where now you got to, you're going to go around, but they construct a story around it enough that it just doesn't feel like a bunch of action set pieces loosely strung together by
different rides that are all still in Mission Impossible land.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't go on the Indiana Jones ride and then go on Pinocchio. Like very different feeling rides.
Yeah.
And there is more just arduousness to what Ethan. I really think that's what Mission Impossible is. Mission Impossible is take James Bond, put some arduous physical feats in there, way more than I started my, I use my device. I gotta have a death trap. No. Ethan Hunt gets out of death traps for breakfast, and then he does a full sprint for 5 minutes in one take. You know what I mean? So it's just that level of James Bondian stuff, but just graduated and with a little bit more consequence. I feel even more than these newer Bond movies. So I think that's the ingredients.
Does it feel like we've gone through the circle of Spirey, like the circle of life, in the sense that Bond got increasingly silly when you're like riding whatever, you're coming in on a surfboard and killing whatever, and then they reset with Casino Royale, and we also had Bourne, and now it's sort of like we've come back around, and I don't think audiences want that like gritty hard reality spy movie at the moment. I feel like people do want the escapism,
and I feel like Mission Impossible is interesting because I feel like they started ridiculous. 1 and 2 are like, I'll watch them. I'm not saying they're bad movies, but they're dumb. And I like dumb movies, so please take that with the definition that I give it. Like, they're very dumb movies. And I feel like Mission Impossible went from the dumbest of Bond to, like, maturing into more just big, like holy shit, like, spectacle. Which is interesting. Whereas most movies will be like, here's the big spectacle, and now we're getting ridiculous. I mean, to take it back to the Terminator discussion, that's kind of what Terminator's done. It's like, here is your hard, gritty, cool spectacle. Now it's getting ridiculous. Mission Impossible has almost done the opposite, in my opinion.
Well, I look forward to seeing Fallout. You know what else people should see is Honest Trailer and Honest Trailer commentaries. But you've already watched the Honest Trailer and the commentaries. Movie Fights is tomorrow live at 4 p.m. Charting with Dan was on yesterday. We are going to have a review. What day are we on?
Today's Wednesday.
Thank you.
2 days ago.
Thank you, Dan Murrell.
But it's still there.
But it's still there, and you can watch it. It was on Monday and Tuesday.
The internet is forever.
Ain't it, though? It's been good to be with you guys today. Let's end on something we're looking forward to in the week.
Getting some sleep.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I applaud this.
Poor Sleepy Ed.
Yeah.
It's cool,
Sleepy
buddy.
Ed. Yeah.
Oh. We got Clark Wolf coming back on Movie Fights
That'll
this
be
Thursday,
fun.
so that'll be rad. She's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you,
I'm
Mr.
looking
Demmer?
forward to Movie Fights as well. We're shuffling up the roles a little bit. Should be a fun episode.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't want to give it away.
Oh, I don't even. This is
But
very.
Things will be
Tomorrow.
shuffled.
Yeah, things
this
will be
is
shuffled.
very intriguing.
Not permanently. Not permanently. Just for this week's episode.
This particular fight. Oh, well, I'm very much looking forward to that. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Billy Business. And I am looking forward to seeing Christopher Robin tonight. I hope it's cute.
It looks cute. You look for cute.
Yeah?
I think you'll be happy.
Okay, great. You be happy too. Let's all be happy together.